What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Good Wife. It's so good to have you back with us. I hope you have subscribed. Please subscribe to my channel and like, comment, and share. Today, this week, I'm very excited to be talking to one of those people, and you will find out what I mean by one of those people. Welcome, Doris, Miti, Chimuli.
Hey.
Doris describes herself as a certified lover of life.
Oh, wow.
But more than that, she's an author. We're going to be talking about her book. She's also a mom, and she's a wife of how many years?
15 years now.
15 years.
Wow.
15 years. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rachel.
So I want to let in our audience on a little secret. We are doing this for the second time.
Oh.
Yes. So we recorded an episode with Doris, and it didn't work out for reasons I will not say. But we're both excited that we're doing this again because now we're like, oh, we can revise the conversation.
Thank God for second chances.
Right? There's so much that we can reframe in this conversation. So welcome to the show.
Thank you once again. It's nice to be back.
Yeah.
Different setting. I like it. I like it.
You like
beautiful.
it? Okay. So as usual, we're going to start with a few icebreakers, a couple of icebreakers. I want to ask you, what are two things that you never leave the house with?
I never leave the house with or without?
Without, rather, yes.
Two things I never leave the house without. And I totally go mad if I forget them. My bottle of water.
I saw you with one. Yes.
And, but there are many.
The two topmost.
Two topmost.
Yes.
Bottle of water and my makeup on.
Really? Also, this is not for like a TV thing?
No.
This is you every day?
Yes.
Guys, I think I need to reevaluate my life because I can totally leave the house without makeup.
I know, I cannot.
Really? So what's that about?
I don't know.
It's just like, I want to look good. So
I just have to look good.
Okay. You look good, you feel good.
I feel good.
Okay.
Without makeup, I'll
not-
crawl under a rock.
Okay. Do you have any bad habits?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
The angels.
Wow. I don't know any angel yet, locally or here.
Internationally.
Or internationally. I think I talk too much.
You think?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. And then I have that habit of in the middle of a conversation and I interrupt with a brilliant idea.
A much more brilliant idea than the one he's sharing with you. Is your husband a listener?
Oh, he's such a good listener.
Yeah.
Oh, I bless him.
Yeah.
And he looks at me like this. And then I realize, I'm like, oops, sorry, you were saying.
interrupted you.
And he says, no, you go on.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I keep whipping
working
myself
on.
up about.
Working
Yeah.
on. But isn't God interesting in how he brings people together?
Yeah.
That there's one of you who talks too much and then the other who listens too much.
Listens.
Yeah. He
Sometimes I'm like, say something.
Say something.
Say-
This is a conversation.
You talk. I'm listening. Yeah.
Anyway, so when I was thinking about who I want to have on the good, I know I say this a lot, but for me, there's a lot of thought into who I want to have conversations with. And your story, I think, is one of those that I think I can relate to in a sense. And I mean, like a good starting point would be if you evaluate your life now,
Yeah.
what would you say is your current season? Like, what are you going through right now?
Ooh, current season. It's interesting. It's like we get rebirths
Yes.
every so often.
Yeah.
So now, even this morning, I was having this conversation with my husband, and I was just telling him, all the new things that are happening in my life. So I'm in a season now where it's just I'm building my business, and every day I'm learning something new, and then I'm redefining and waking up and thinking, am I on the right track?
Yeah.
Should I be still at this? Do I close shop and go home? And I'm like, but no, God gave me this idea. So I'm in that space. I recently read a quote that just made me laugh. It said, being in business is like being in a war, except there are no bullets. Like,
No bullets. Agrees.
like, why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah.
So I'm in that season, but also on a more spiritual side, I'm also in a very calm place. I'm meditating a lot. I'm reading. I'm spending time with God. Like I told you, I get up early. I'm an early riser, so by 4 a.m. I'm usually up. And sometimes I just want to be in a quiet space. So I just get up and go to the living room, be in with the small light, as my son calls it, switch on the small light and lay on the beanbag. And I'm like, okay, God, speak.
What are you saying? What's on your heart?
I just have my notebook and I just take down things. I don't listen to radio anymore. It's amazing that I've even stopped. I sit in the car and I just want peace and quiet. So I'm in that season. I don't know what season it is, but it's
a reflective one.
It's a very reflective one, but it's also very peaceful.
Yeah.
I sleep so much better. Gosh.
Okay.
For me, that's a big one.
There's no chaos. There are no thoughts running through your head.
There's no chaos in my head. I keep saying I suffer a lot from insomnia, but it's because my head is just churning.
Okay.
And you sleep, but it's still working.
Yes.
But now I black out and I am out.
That's nice.
Until my alarm.
So I guess more of the story is we should make time for peace and quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. And just
I'm liking that space. I'm really liking that phase, that I don't have to be everywhere all the time.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Interestingly, I'm in a completely opposite season. I feel like I'm busy all the time. There's so much to do, so little time.
I know.
And so I find that, so because I feel like I'm busy all the time, I want moments of quiet, but then I feel like I'm tired all the time.
Yes.
So when I hear you say you're up at 4 a.m., I'm like, I would want that. But when my alarm goes off at 4:30, I snooze. I snooze because I'm like, a few more minutes of sleep.
Yeah.
And then I wake up and I'm back to the rat race. And by midday, I'm just like, Lord,
I want my bed.
I want my bed. I want someone to tell me you don't have to do that thing. I'm going to do it for you, you know.
I was in that place for a long time.
For a long time, yeah. The good thing is I'm aware that I need to do something about it. And so I'm learning to prioritize my time. I'm learning how to say no at my big age, you people.
Gosh, saying no.
At my big age.
No, you're not alone.
Really?
That has been one of my biggest problems. And people have the sweetest words. Doris, I think you're the perfect person for this. Because you understand it. In fact, I talked to so-and-so and she said, why don't you speak to Doris? And guys, no, don't do this to me. Please don't.
So like, how do you say no to that? You know?
How do you say no to that? It's always a tricky one.
Yeah. So I'm happy we're having this conversation because I'm definitely going to, first of all, I need to readjust my alarm to 4 a.m. I put it at 4:30 because I'm like, guys,
can I tell you something? I don't even have an alarm for 4 a.m. I am up at 3:55.
Wow.
Or 3:45. I'm like, why, head, let me sleep for the next 15 minutes. So I'll lay there and I'll think, and then I'll toss and I'm like, okay.
Let me just get up.
Yeah. And it's 3:55.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so nice. Anyway, speaking of reflection, when you look back at your marriage, your life, obviously you are not where you used to be when you had just gotten married. And I want to hear a bit about that. Married life when you had just begun and how it compares to where you are now, and maybe some key lessons that you have learned. I know it's a very packed question, but we'll break it bit by bit. So go back to the beginning, married life, meeting your husband, and then those first few years of marriage.
Interesting. Let me first start from something I learned 2 years ago when we did the marriage enrichment course at one of the churches. So we learned about the phases of marriage.
Yes.
You know, about
I've
those,
heard about them.
The honeymoon phase, then there's a drama phase, then they think there's a discovery phase, and then something else. And we can't lie. Everybody has those. Everybody has those. Honeymoon phase, unfortunately lasts for such a short
Very
while.
short time. They don't tell you that.
They don't tell you that. And it's literally the 2 weeks of honeymoon and you're done.
For a lot of people, it
2
really
weeks
is.
and you're
And
done.
that's it.
And then you wake up to the reality, you're like,
Drama.
wait, the wedding was only 2 weeks ago.
Are we fighting?
What is going on? And yeah, so for us, drama lasted for 8 years.
Wow. I mean, I can't believe that. We were in the drama phase for about 7 years as well.
Yeah, our drama phase lasted for 8 years. And then God pulled us through that one miraculously. I still can't believe it. Sometimes I look back, kind of like, me?
How?
Crazy me?
How am I here?
How am I here? But it's only God.
Yeah.
He really held us. He really held us. It was a lot of prayer. Of course, going back, well, people do the honeymoon, then there are, of course, the expectations. So I'm getting married. It's going to be like this. And my husband used to tell me we're going to be a power couple.
Don't we all have those dreams?
So I was like, whatever power couple means, that is us.
I'm in.
I see myself driving a G-Wagon anytime.
Oh my.
and living in this fancy house,
Yes.
So that's the dream for the power couple. And then you get there after the honeymoon and you're like, oh, dude, we don't have money. We don't have food tonight. How do we go about
plan?
that one?
Yes.
And then, then you sort out. And, for us, when we started, my husband didn't have a job because he moved towns. When we met, he was in a different town, and was like, okay, I'm not going to be commuting.
Yes.
So he moved to Kampala, and then he didn't have a job. I was like, no, we're good.
I got this.
I got this. Yeah. But then in that I got this was me still coming with, I've been an independent girl. I'm a firstborn. I manage things.
That's Doris for you. She manages things,
And I manage people. So I was managing him.
Everything, yes.
Everything. I was like, okay, bills paid, landlord paid. What do we need?
Yes.
Car needs repairing. So and then I see this man. He's just there. I go to work. I leave him in his toweling robe, that gown. I come back. He's still in that same gown sitting. I'm like,
what's up?
What's going on? Did you apply for any jobs today? But I'm managing.
Yes.
And then at some point I was like, okay, so where are we going with this? And then as things roll, okay, so a few months you're supposed to, ideally, according to expectations, you're supposed to start getting pregnant and start getting babies because I don't know who told us that that's the order of things.
The natural order.
The natural order of things. And then, babies, nothing's happening. It's okay, let's find out what's going on. We go to the doctor, and for the first time, I heard that I had a condition called polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS. I looked at the doctor, I said, what is that? Keep in mind, I got married at 31. So I wasn't exactly a spring chicken by society standards.
Yes.
So I was 31. I'm like, I don't have time to wait for this baby thing. Just get them onto the conveyor belt and then get them out there.
Yes.
And then, so polycystic ovary syndrome, it's when they described to me all the things that I was going through, I realized that this was something I had had since I started my menstrual cycle at 13. So my periods would disappear for weeks on end or months, and I'd be like, good.
We're good.
Who wants this destruction? Went through that, university. But I remember getting concerned at some point when I was at uni. And then I went to one of the famous doctors in town. And he said, this one is a small thing. We can correct it. Here, some contraceptive. Take those.
Yeah.
I was like, but why are you putting me on contraceptives? This is not, I'm not,
right.
Active like that. It's not right. So I didn't take them on. Now here I am in my marriage, and I'm being told this is something that, although they tell me it's reversible, we can correct it in a few months, you should be good. Yeah, so we kept trying. My husband, bless his soul, was always there. We went to every doctor we ever went to. He was by my side.
Wow.
For 10 years. I never, ever went to a checkup or whatever
Appointment.
without him.
Yeah.
He was always there. And then they said, okay, for you, for my husband, just a slight thing, correction here, and we're good. But then it still wasn't happening. And yeah, I mean, what can I say?
How did that affect your relationship? And maybe, let's start with that. How did that affect your relationship? Because trying for a child, I know I have been there. Trying for a child can either bring the couple together or create division.
Divisions.
But now you're saying your husband was by your side. Was that enough?
We're created differently. No wonder said men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yes.
Rachel, I could call you and we talk, and I say, hey, man, this thing. My husband couldn't talk to anybody. Men are men and they're macho and they keep things in, and he's dealing with whatever he's dealing. But if he's dealing, it's something eating him up. Now, unfortunately for my husband, I think it really ate him up. And then, because he couldn't come home to talk to me about it, he resorted to other means of coping. And those means
became an issue.
Yeah. And that was alcohol. So he hit the bottle really, really hard. He talks about it now. He says he was a functional alcoholic. So this is the first time I heard that term he talked about it about 2 years ago. So like, what's a functional alcoholic?
What does that mean? Yeah.
It's like, you drink and you go to work.
And you function?
So you're a functional alcoholic. Okay. And then they are non-functional ones. So I guess those are the ones we find falling on the street, whatever.
Yes.
So imagine they even have a fancy term for it. So he hit the bottle and that became an issue. At first it sort of just manifested. It just started a little. Then I thought, okay, I mean, I've known him. Oh, I didn't tell you. I actually knew my husband when we were in high school. He was my friend in high school. And then we met many years later. But he was this guy who used to make me laugh. Yeah. So for me, even when he proposed to me, I don't even know if it was a proposal. Like the first time we met 12 years after high school.
It was not a proposal?
He just said, I'm going to marry you.
But we really need a meeting for women who have not been proposed to. And I've said this before on this show. There's a caliber of men. While we appreciate the candor, while we appreciate the forwardness and the decision making, I feel like we need to balance a bit with some karoma.
And people are showing us all these videos, mania flower petals.
Yes.
No, we just had a conversation after 12 years. Like, Doris, where have you been all this time? I'm like, I've been here. I talked about my entire life. You talked about it the entire life. And then he says, I'm going to marry you. I'm like, huh?
Where did that come
from?
from?
What are you drinking? What are you on? He said, yeah. Then the next day he called me and said, I wasn't high on anything yesterday. I'm supposed to travel today, but I've changed my trip. I want to meet you and we talk about this.
Wow.
And we talked about this, that, whatever. And 1 year to the date we were married.
We were married. That is
so for us
such
it
a
was
wonderful story.
Courtship, direct, leading to everything. So back to us now. So this is a person I have known all those
a very long time.
A long time. So he's my friend, and I know that he drinks here and there, but then it quickly went downhill, like quickly. It started with 2 weeks after the wedding, me waking up in the night. I'm like, where's this man?
He didn't come back.
He didn't come back. I'm calling the phone. It's off. I'm like, where is he?
Panic.
He was in an accident. What happened? So I call I wait, waiting the night out until 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to call his best friend who is in the neighborhood. So I call him, I'm like, your friend didn't get home. Like, okay, last conversation, where was he? Like, he was on Munyonyo Road somewhere because we were living in Muyenga. And he says, okay, let me dress up, I come get you. So he comes to pick me up at about 7, and we're driving along Gava Road. Then we reach Kabalagala Police and we peep, and I see our car parked there.
Goodness.
I'm like, oh my God, I hope this person didn't die. Like,
I hope
we're going to
he's
find a
okay.
ramshackled car because we could only see the back. And then we go there and the car is
It's
intact.
fine.
Like, what's going on here? They're like, oh, that one. That one almost ran us over last
is a
night.
police
In
officer
fact,
talk.
he's inside there.
But that's a relief for you.
It was a huge relief.
Yeah.
But when I got the relief, and then the anger set in.
Yes.
I was like, what
Are
are
you
you doing here?
doing?
I was so mad. But I put it all in the book. Just know it was the first of many.
Yeah.
And that went on for a while. But I can't say I blamed him. It
Yeah,
was his way of
coping. Yeah,
of coping.
And I wanted us to talk a bit about that. That obviously the way, and you alluded to it, the way women cope and the way men cope
Yes.
is very different. If you are going to cope using unhealthy methods, for example, alcohol, that's bound to cause even more issues on top of
at home.
the fertility journey that you are on. Now you have to deal with the alcohol. It just kind of compounds.
Because we had this Indian doctor lady, may her soul rest in peace. So she would give me all these shots and all these drugs, and then and we measured the time and the dates.
I remember.
You know? And then she says, go and meet your husband.
Because
We'll be like, okay, you tell him, doctor told us to meet tonight and you're not at home. So how am I supposed to meet
how am I
you?
supposed to meet you? It's not going to work.
Yeah. But of course, it does compound the issue. And if you're not, I still think we were both young. We were inexperienced. I mean, nobody can say, even if you got married at 45 for the first time, that you have it locked down.
Yeah.
So it's very inexperienced in the way I also handled the situation.
Tell us about that. How did you handle the situation? Because I know, I mean, a wife could be watching and maybe are in your shoes. And for you to be seated here still saying, oh, I was talking to my husband this morning. And clearly things are okay now.
Yes.
So, but like, how did you respond and what did you learn from how you responded?
Yes. First of all, like I started, I was the independent go-getter. I can do it all. So my way of coping, now I had things to deal with. Number one, I don't have a baby. There's no child in the picture. Number two, I have an absentee husband. And number three,
you are handling the finances.
I'm handling the finances. And number four, I still do need to keep up appearances for society that I'm in a good marriage.
Yes.
And even if there are no babies, we are happy. We are cool like that. So we had these relatives who just used to say, Abo Bazungu, I think they're taking their time.
It's okay, we'll go with that story.
So we'll go with that story. So my coping, first of all, came from that. Now already we had started at the point where he didn't have a job, and then I was working, and I was taking charge. So he felt emasculated in a way. I mean, even the gate man at home would only be talking to me.
Because you're the one who had the
yes,
money.
Madam, Kati, Bichi, organize this, sort this out. So I was sorting things out. And then, so for some reason, my husband just became too busy and just stopped attending or being at maybe family events and what. My family wasn't helping either. My sisters would just say, oh, we're going to the Doris. Okay, they call me Dora at home. Oh, Dora said this. Dora's car. Dora's home.
It seems like a small thing, but like your husband has been taken out of the picture.
He was totally taken out. Yeah. And I also didn't know how to be we. I was always I about everything. And people pick up on that.
Yes.
And even now, when I hear couples doing that, because I'm aware of it, I go like,
cringe. Yeah, I see what you're doing.
She didn't just do that. She didn't just do that. And it really irks men in a particular way. So I would be like, oh, my car, my house, I'm going, I'm doing this, I did that. And you'll be like, Doris, this is we. But my subconscious is like, but you're not bringing any money to the table. Yes. It is me. Rachel,
you've come from far.
Come from far.
come from?
So there was that part. And then, of course, I was working. I was high flying. God has been good to me.
Yes.
He's really, really blessed me. I had my dream job in the United Nations by the age of 24. By 27, I had already bought a plot of land. I was driving my dream car, BMW.
Wow.
So I was all that.
And more.
I know. And then I come here and I'm like, I'm supposed to fit in.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to humble myself. It was difficult, but I wasn't conscious of it. I wasn't conscious of it until I had to ask myself, where is this going? Why do I feel like I'm fighting a lone battle?
Yeah.
But the battle I was fighting wasn't just the alcohol battle. There was so much more. So then I started reading books. Thankfully, I'm a reader. You said I'm also an author. I've always been reading. So I was reading and I came across certain books that were just talking about be humble, submit. The Bible is very clear.
Yeah.
So I started the submission journey. It was not easy.
I can imagine. So was it the books that you read that brought it to your attention? Did anyone try to talk to you and say, maybe Doris, the way you're talking to your husband? Okay.
Nobody ever told me. It was the books. One particular book that stood out then. There's a book called Fascinating Womanhood.
Yes, I remember.
Have you read it?
Yes, I have.
And I remember telling people at the office, let's all read this book together. And they were like, sure. This one, telling us to be as if what? I said to people,
It's okay.
let me try. And Bambi, when I did, interestingly, after, marriage is interesting. A few months after, now of course my husband's gotten a job, he's working, he's doing well. He actually put money together and bought me a car.
Are you serious?
Yes.
After that, Dora that.
Yes.
Micah.
Yes.
Madam, tukole tutya.
He actually, and then I saw a difference in him.
Yeah.
He would come home early and he would hang around. He would be doing stuff. So I asked him, how come you're coming home early these days? And he said, there's something that has changed about you that makes me want to come home.
Wow.
But also God orchestrated it in such a way that I lost a job or work for a season. Like after my big World Bank job, I didn't have work for like a year.
So you had no money.
I had no money.
God has a way of humbling people, eh?
I had no money. I was sitting at home. I would look at the house and the national water people would come and they're going to cut off. And those were the days of umeme before what's yaka.
Wow.
I'd be like, honey, the water people are here. And you send like 20K and we first subdue them.
Before they catch us, so...
I ate humble pie. My God, I ate humble pie. I could not believe I was in that place. So that plus also just saying, okay, if it's changing how I'm relating with my husband,
then
so be it.
Yeah.
So be it.
Oh, wow.
And then I loved the phase and I just let it continue. I simply realized I needed to be the wife and the woman, and I needed to give him his place as the man, and he needed to take charge.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm a princess.
You're a princess.
I'm just
Forever in distress.
even me, I don't
Honey,
know.
I don't know how to do it.
I don't know. Until the bulb is out, I'm like, okay, we shall stay in darkness for 2 weeks until
That's
you
so
climb
cute,
up
until you climb
the
up
chair
the
and put it.
I know, I mean, we are laughing about this now, but there are a lot of women who don't give a second thought to the husband. And it's because maybe they're in a situation like yours, they're earning the money, maybe more money than he is. Or maybe it's not even about the money, it's about personality. I'm more a go-getter, I am passionate, I go for the things I want,
Yes.
and that shows up in your marriage. And it's little things that will send a message to your husband that, by the way, if I had my way, like I would just be by myself. You know, I'm making my own decisions. I don't really care your opinion. And I'm so glad that you were able to rise above it without anyone talking to you, because nowadays we're always looking for advice. Tell me, how have you done this thing? Tell me, how have you done this thing? And I think as women, we need to be able to talk ourselves off a ledge.
Indeed, off a ledge.
Yeah, because
Because one push and you're off.
where you're going is not working.
Yeah.
So that means you need to pivot.
Exactly.
You can't be doing the same thing and expecting
different results,
you know.
yeah.
So asking yourself tough questions like, why am I not getting along with my husband? Why are we always fighting?
Yeah.
Why does he always sulk? Like, why does he always say, but babe, I feel disrespected? He's not just saying it. It's
Yeah.
coming from somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, and for us as women to pay attention and to listen and then ask yourself, like, so what do I do differently? You know? Back to the fertility journey, I want to hear how that panned out. Because now your husband is working, of course he has his way of coping, and it's kind of making the issues in the marriage worse.
Yeah.
How do you then rise through that fertility journey?
Yes.
And how do we now come to the Doris that we are seeing today?
It was a real journey. It was a journey, a lot of self-discovery.
Yeah.
I went through all the phases of, you know, questioning myself and my body,
Yes.
and wondering why this body wasn't functioning the way it should. Then questioning God. And I said, God, I know I made mistakes when I was a teenager and a 20-year-old. I know I was, flying off the handle in so many ways, but please forgive me. Like, don't punish me for my childhood carelessness. Maybe if somebody had talked to me and told me. So then God kept telling me, Doris, I forgave you a long time ago. I hold nothing against you.
Yeah.
It's not about that. And your time will come. So once I clearly had that my time will come and I will have babies, I made peace. I rested. I made peace with it. And then I just started enjoying just
the marriage,
just holding on to God's word. I was still doing my work. I was still flying high all over the place, traveling a lot. But I had that peace of mind that the babies were coming. God led me to scripture after scripture after scripture that was telling me clearly where I was going, like where. In fact, when you read through my book, I have tried, son is all dog-eared and everything, but I even tried, I was like, whoever gets this book, let them find, the scriptures.
Yeah.
I had scripture promises to hold on to in a childless situation. Childbirth is possible for all. Promises to hold on for fertility and conception, promises for a safe pregnancy, promises that we shall be parents, and then confessions that I would say out loud.
Yourself,
And around 2016, there was this movie that came out. It was called War Room.
War Room, yes, I remember.
Yeah. I watched that. It was like the Bible
became
alive for me. I watched that movie. I sat down, and thankfully the house we were in at the time had a spare bedroom that we're not going to use. It became my closet. In every sense of the way, as in it had my clothes and my shoes and my dressing mirror, and then my prayer room, my prayer closet, my altar was there. I was reading the Bible. I had scripture. I had promises. I had little sticky notes that I put on the wall. Now, while it gave me a lot of peace, my husband just wasn't at the same place with me.
And that can be troubling.
He was confused by my seeming calmness. And then he said, you don't care about this anymore. I'm like, what do you mean? Because it's like, you're just there. You're happy. You're going about your life. What do you want me to do?
What do you want me to do?
To be bawling my eyes out, crying every night? That is not what God's promising. And that's not what he said he would do. I need to wait on him, and this is going to happen. So he would just keep telling me, Doris, you're not in this. You're on your own. You're not caring. You're having fun. You're flying country to country. You're always in your Rotary things. I don't know, doing what. Of course, I filled my life with so many things. I had Rotary. It was what? But I was telling him, God promised that this is going to happen. So there's no need for us to panic
Run
about
around,
it.
yes.
And also the other thing that I found was praying for my husband a lot more than, blaming him and nagging or whatever. And interestingly, the more I prayed for him, the more I changed.
That's so interesting, but I can believe it. Yes.
I was the one who was experiencing that. I'm like,
What's
this is
happening?
weird.
Yeah. The other person is the one supposed to be changing because he's the one I'm praying for.
I was the one who
Yeah.
was receiving the change.
Yeah.
Which also continued to give me peace of mind. So that was the process really. For me, it was a lot of prayer, a lot of self-introspection. I went off to all prayer mountains. Think of a prayer mountain in Uganda.
In Uganda.
I have been to it.
Yes.
Overnight prayers.
Yeah.
I have been there. We as a family, as the bigger family, the Metis and the Sewagalas were Catholics. So I did all the Catholic prayers up there. I went to all the mountains, Bokalango, Chiwamirembe, I don't know, I did overnights.
Yeah.
Then when the Balokole would come, I would
You'd
go.
also go?
I was at Pastor Tom, Pastor Oya, Pastor Oya. Then they would say, oh, go, Father Raymond has a word for you. Then I go to Father Raymond. And Father Raymond says, my sister, what were we praying for last day? Childbirth. God is not ready for that one. Let's pray for other things.
something else. Oh,
Like,
wow.
Even the prophet, the man of God said, you pray for other things.
Focus on something
Focus
else.
on something else.
Yeah.
Went to Ukalango, Father Magembe says what? And then you go, wow.
Wow,
it was
indeed.
such a journey.
Yeah.
Then Pastor Kayanja came up with 77 days of glory.
Yes.
I was sleeping in Miracle Center every day.
Really?
I did not get out of that church in the season 2 of those days of glory, 2017. I was there every day.
Every single day.
And then God would show me, he was like, this is your baby. That's what the baby's going to look like. You're going to hold on. But the man was still drinking alcohol and coming back.
Coming back late. So there was no meeting
How
happening.
is it working?
How is it going to work?
Yeah, that was it. I don't know, I forget even where your question started.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have kind of answered it. And by the way, the answers and the entire journey you can find in this book. Like she said, it's all dog-eared and all. But please, where can they find this?
What's that? Mahiri.com.
Mahiri.com. So those
Mahiri
are
books, yes.
online?
Online, yeah.
And it can be delivered to you.
And it can be delivered to them,
So
yes.
it's called He Calls Me Mama.
It's also on Amazon for outside countries.
International subscribers.
Yes.
Yes. So I've read this book and I read it and I was just thinking, what a journey. And like everything she's talked about and more, like, in terms of detail, she talks about in the book, the journey to you and your husband overcoming that alcohol phase, and then how you eventually got Yosefu. I mentioned that she's a mom. She has a son. And God answered that prayer as he is faithful. And she talks about how to wait when waiting is all you've got, And, it's interesting that you talk about prayer changing you as you're praying for the other person.
Yes.
And I think I have experienced that as well. And I also feel like it's difficult to go to God in prayer when your heart is not right.
Yes.
How do you say, I'm going to pray for someone if you don't feel burdened to pray for them? And so when you go to him and he's saying, okay, I'm going to fix that, but I want to fix this thing in you, you know? There's a bit of pride here and maybe you're not trusting me enough. Are there things that you can do better? I want my word to come alive in you. And that's why your husband sees you. He sees a piece that he doesn't understand.
That wasn't connecting.
Why is she calm? I don't get it. And so if you want to get the full story of how Yosef eventually came to be, buy the book. I want us to pivot to some of the things that you have talked about, in terms of especially self-awareness in marriage and how that can be the difference between a good marriage and a bad marriage.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, we come into marriage when we kind of know who we are. I am Rachel, I am opinionated, I like to have my way, or that's who I am,
Yeah.
And we expect that your spouse is going to work on your terms.
Yes.
and yet that's not exactly how marriage works, you know. And so I would want you to speak to whether you're drawing from lessons from your marriage, but how important understanding who you are and how it is playing out in your marriage saved your marriage, but also how, for those who are planning to get married, the young girls who are getting into, or the young wives, how it's important to understand who you are, of course, based on the Word of God, and how important and valuable that information is to having a good marriage.
relationship. Yeah, self-awareness, knowing who you are. You know, of course, I draw mainly from my experience. Even as we were going through all that stuff, first of all, the one thing that I knew and I always kept me grounded was that I knew my husband loved me. I was like, I don't care what Julius is going through right now.
I know he loves me.
He loves me. So that was one. Then I went back to that place where, and you mentioned it, when he would say, Doris, it's a we relationship. Why is it I for you all the time? And I would not understand why it's such a big deal for him. And then I, again, sit down and say, okay, this is me, Doris. You have been doing life for so long by yourself. But now you have a partner and he's not comfortable. Because I remember, I don't know whether it's something I read where they said, every time your partner complains about something or says something's not, put yourself in their shoes. And then you will realize the gravity of it. So I had to also go into the space of listening. Like I told you earlier, wasn't a good listener. Still struggle. Jump in when the conversation, he's telling me his points. I am running to be defensive and to explain it away. And that is me. I had to allow and accept that, yes, Doris, you have the bad habit of wanting to jump into a conversation and not waiting for him to speak. My husband is really soft-spoken. And he takes his time with his words.
Yes, he does.
Get to the end so that I can jump in
and tell you my things.
And I tell you my things. So now even being self-aware that I am going to interrupt the conversation, that he is going to lose his train of thought, or he's going to decide to keep whatever he wanted to say to himself, and yet I want to hear it, I had to say, okay, let me step back. Let me just
listen. For a change.
And then I would sit and he would talk. And then I would actually begin to hear his heart. I would actually hear him say, this hurt me really badly.
Ouch.
Like, you know, and he would bring up things of them days.
Because you're always talking. When are you going to listen to him?
All the
thing has been hurting him.
Why didn't you tell me? It's like, would I get in edgeways? Like, where?
Wow. At what point?
You're either gone flying off to some destination, and when you come back, you're telling me your things
about the destination.
And then I'm trying to tell you my things, you're being defensive. So I also had to come to that point of just listen and let him talk. And don't listen to fight and to defend. Just listen to try and place yourself in their shoes and try and understand and then see where they're coming from. Also, being aware of our differences in culture, in experience, because we bring our lived experiences to who we are. Like I said, firstborn, always in charge, daddy's girl, you know. My dad could do no wrong in my side.
As far as you're concerned.
As far as I was concerned. He's a fixer. He fixes everything in the household. You know, the broken light, the broken lamp, My husband is a 7th child of 10. He's in the middle there, probably somewhere, lost. The whole time people are doing things.
Guys are like, Posy,
has anybody seen Julius around? He's in his own
In his
small
own
bubble.
world, yes.
And I think that's why his mind has so many things. He's so intelligent. I keep calling him my encyclopedia.
Yes.
Like, he knows so many things because he's probably buried himself in just amassing all this information.
Yes.
Because that's where he got his breakthrough of being out of. And now, here I am expecting him to be Mr. Take Charge. He had big brothers to do that.
Yes.
He had, I don't know who.
Yes.
He was in the middle. He was floating. I'm like, why can't you fix the bulb? Why can't you go under the sink and just open that thing so that thing can unclog?
You know?
Like my father
Why?
does.
Yes. I grew up seeing my dad do this thing.
know.
Why are you not?
Why are you telling me that the car can be parked there and like you can't just
can't
go
just
and
go
maybe
and
just clean
fix
it? Or just pop the hood and
Yeah.
figure out that baby doesn't have water?
Yeah.
Like, why am I the one? I know what is supposed to be under the hood.
the hood, yeah.
And again, I had to sit down and say, Doris, your experiences were different. Julius's experiences were different. He's like this, you're like this. But you're meeting and you're having to each compromise and make room for the
each
other.
other. Yeah.
And I see he's made room for me so many times.
That's nice.
Because he knows you said I'm a lover, a certified lover of life.
life.
I'm a social butterfly.
Yes, you are.
I want to be here, I want to be there, I want to be enjoying this. Da, da, da. In fact, tonight I have a dinner where I'm supposed to be all dressed up. He watches me go out of the house.
And he's cool.
And he's like, have fun.
Have fun.
And I'm like, by the way, can't you come with me?
Yes.
This is going to be so much fun. He's introverted.
Yeah, I understand your husband.
Yeah,
I really do.
He's
I
so
really do.
introverted. He doesn't do crowds. He's not happy being in all that space. And me, I'm in my element. So I said, okay. Nachuala,
It's okay.
as my person, I call myself when I'm lecturing
talking to
myself.
yourself.
I'm like, Nachuala, be calm.
Become.
Go for your event and
Yeah.
have fun and come back home.
After all, your husband has made room for you to be able to do
He has
that.
made room for me to be. And he has really allowed me and just accepted me in that space. So I also have to rise to the place where I know there are certain things which maybe I just need to forego.
Yeah.
When he says, I don't feel comfortable, why don't you stay home?
Yeah.
Why don't you? I'm like, okay, I want to die.
Yeah. So make room for him as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. I think part of being self-aware in marriage is being aware of your surroundings, and that includes your husband.
Yes.
And educating yourself about him. And the hope is that he's doing the same for you.
Yeah.
That when you understand, okay, Nachiwala's background is like A, B, C, D. My father fixed things. I was a fixer. This is who I am. So, but now who is my husband? So become a student of your spouse.
Yes.
You know, like, okay, so for
daily.
7th child out of 10, that must have been vastly different from the way I grew up, you know? What was that like? I'm extroverted, he's introverted, you know? But I think that when we get into the marriage space, we only make room for ourselves. Me, this is how I am. Me, I'm
Yes.
extroverted. I'm a social butterfly. I want to go out. Why can't he make room for me? And then it becomes about you, and then you wonder why you're fighting.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I think being self-aware in marriage is also making room for your spouse and being a student of your spouse.
Oh, yes,
you know?
that one. And I think being a student never ends.
It never ends.
It never
Yes.
ends. Sometimes I'm like, today let me just, you see how they say, poke a stick in the beehive to
Yes.
see if something comes
Yes,
out. So I'm like, maybe today he might surprise me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hon, can we go do this? And he looks at me, he's like,
Nah,
Doris.
not happening after all these years.
and it's like, and then I go on a tirade. I'm like, I just knew. You're so predictable. Why can't you just allow for once? And I say, Doris, don't start.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, forget it. Let me
It's
just.
going to happen.
gonna-
I really like that. I think that, and I also feel like in the, let's call it the discovery stage of marriage, that you're learning about each other, but it's more fun. You're not
Yes.
fighting about
No.
the differences.
No.
In the drama stage, it's like, oh my gosh, my husband
Everything
does
is
this.
a fight.
Everything is a fight. Everything annoys you. Everything irritates you. And then when you get to discovery stage where you're like, I have accepted this person
Yeah.
with their things. I don't understand them, but they're my person. It's like, learning about them becomes fun.
It becomes
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, it becomes fun where you're like, let me try this. I think maybe he will surprise me. And then he doesn't surprise you. And you're like, okay, I thought maybe there might
Yeah.
be. But I also think that as in marriage, we evolve, we grow.
Yeah.
Like there's the overarching theme of who Doris is. She's an extrovert. She likes to go out. But there are things that you had to learn, adjust to,
Yeah.
especially to accommodate your husband and him as well, to accommodate you. So it's not like you just accept the other person and then also the other person accepts
And
you.
then you forget
There's
who you
who
are.
you are. I think there's growth, there's evolving,
Yeah.
and it's I feel like it's what is supposed to make the marriage journey rich and exciting. So as we bring this to a close, I know that prayer is something that's close to your heart. I want you to speak to that, especially what it does to a marriage, and I think you kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
But also to your message to young wives. I want you to speak to the young wives, the ones who have been married a year, 2 years. They're probably still in their drama phase,
the
while
drama
yours
phase.
lasted 8 years, mine 7.
And then they look at us and like, how are you even
How are
still
you?
there?
With
Because
all
me
the
after
things you've
months,
been
I want to
through.
kick this man out.
And I think I said this on a podcast that I was on, that we live in an era where we have very low tolerance these days. And so when we get in and we're in this drama phase and it is too much drama, we're like, guys, I did not sign up for this.
Yeah.
And yet we miss out on what could have been a really good marriage.
Yes, that's true.
And there is no, and I know there were times in your marriage, especially in that like alcohol phase, where you're like, what is this? Can somebody explain to me? Maybe I should pack my bags and
go.
And go.
I did try.
Yeah, she talks about it in the book. Guys, buy the book. I promise. It's a good read.
I did try.
It's a good read. Actually, that story amused me so much.
My mother says she doesn't remember.
Really?
It's like, when? What?
She's feigning ignorance. But
Totally. I don't remember you coming home and me chasing you to go back.
after hiding for how many days?
Like,
Buy the book.
oh, yes,
Buy the
they
book.
need to buy the book.
Yeah, so speak to young wives.
Well, prayer, you started about
Yeah.
prayer and then just getting into that discovery phase, the levels of tolerance. I was having this discussion with, who was I having this discussion with just recently about how the levels of tolerance have gone so low.
Yeah.
And the person was saying that our mothers
Went through
really
the most.
went through a lot.
Yeah.
And they held on. But now the slightest thing is like, hey, I'm out of
I'm
here.
outta here, yeah.
Is it because we are richer? Is it because we have better options?
Maybe not.
I mean, quite honestly, Richard, I can't lie and say that I haven't considered walking out of my marriage many a time.
Many a time, yeah. For sure.
And then I stopped to think, but now we have plans. We're building onto something. I still haven't lost the dream of being the power couple.
Maybe you are. You just haven't had
Maybe I
enough people
haven't,
tell you
you know?
that you're the power couple.
Like, and then I step out there, and then what? It's not even so much the fear of, oh, maybe where will I get money? How do I start over? But it's just that there were particular things that held us together at the beginning. So if I can revisit those and I say, what were those values? What did we think we could both bring to the table in this relationship?
Yeah.
And if those things are still there, again, this morning, my husband were talking about the fundamentals, and that word comes back to me. If the fundamentals are still the same, then everything else around it is just noise.
This is true.
And you can bring yourself back to that place.
Yeah.
And it's interesting once you get to that understanding, and then you tell yourself, you talk to God and say, Lord, you brought us together. It was for a reason. I know you'll make this work. So it's over to you.
Over to you.
You make it
Surrender.
work. At times I'm like, God, why am I here?
Why am I here?
Why am I here? I mean, I could just go rent an apartment.
You know?
And start over.
And I'll be fine.
And I'm like, is that what I want?
Yeah.
I'm only in my mid-40s now. I plan to live for another almost 40, 50 years. Do I want to be alone? Do I want to be, chasing little boys?
Because when you get to a certain age.
When you get to a certain the loneliness does catch up with you.
Yeah.
And then it ceases to be about love and how I'm feeling. It's the companionship.
Yes.
My parents have been married for as long as I have been alive. Which is 40-something years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look at them. I remember a time when they were going through stuff. I was young and haughty, and I was telling my mom, why don't you leave him? Why don't you just go?
Serious?
Like, how can he do this to you?
Yeah.
I'm like, Daddy used to be my hero, but now
Not
I look at you, I'm like, you're just like any other man. And unfortunately, Bambi, I could actually talk to my parents like that because they had me when they were really young. So I've grown up with them. So I'd sit and lecture my dad.
With them, yes.
I'm like, but Daddy, you can't do this. Why? And it's like, no, it's my decision. I will choose. I started it. I will end. I'm like, no, it's not your decision, Daddy. We are all involved in this. In fact, we're supporting Mom if she wants to leave. And my mom was like, you children, you leave me.
You don't know.
The things are between me and your father.
Yes. And she was right.
And she was right.
Yeah.
And so many, now I've grown up and I'm like, yeah, it's not a decision to make.
Yeah.
And now they are into their late 60s, moving towards their 70s, and they're there. They're stuck together, literally. They're in the house alone.
Yes.
All of us have moved on. When my mom goes to the village and spends like 3 days, Daddy's calling me like every second. I'm here in the house alone. I've gone back to the days when I was single.
He's missing his wife.
I'm here and I'm like, Daddy, you were never even single because you met Mom like as soon as you left campus.
Oh my, oh my.
And yet when they're together, they are bickering.
Yes.
Why are you here? Why are you like that? Look at why are you just like, I'm like, Mom, leave the man alone.
Let him be.
He doesn't care anymore. Yes, he was a diplomat. He used to wear suits. Now he's there on the farm, getting all dirty and wearing gumboots. But
That's his
as
life.
they say in Luganda, that's his person, that's her person, and they're there in their life.
Yeah.
And that companionship, like you can sit in the house.
Yeah.
So I think about that, and there are so many things that go into that when you start thinking, I can't tolerate, I can't handle. There are things that go into the decisions, as long as it's not an abusive relationship that is taking your self-esteem away, that is eroding you of who you are. But this is a genuinely good person.
Yeah.
But they're making mistakes, and so are you.
So are you. Yeah.
None of us is perfect. When you asked me, do I have faults or whatever, I said, who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
None of us is perfect, but you wake up every day. And when they say marriage is work, it is work.
It really is.
You go work on your business. How do you forget to work on your marriage?
Like, what are you thinking is going to happen?
You need strategic
You
goals.
need strategy for your marriage.
You need
too.
vision, mission. Where are we
Yeah.
headed? I keep asking my husband, so where are we headed now? Where is our vision for the next
Women
5
will
years?
forever be asking for strategy, by the way. What is our strategic plan for the next 10 years?
Where are we going?
Where are we going?
It's just there. I'm happy to have my Yosefu. Now we should try have more kids. I'm like, how? What is the
What's the
vision
plan?
when we have them? Because, Yosefu is a planned kid.
A proper planned kid. Planned, prayed for.
Planned, prayed for. Now, I want them to continue in the planned life.
Yes.
Planned.
So what's the plan?
Yes, they're not like us firstborns. There's no firstborn who has a planned child.
By the way, most are not.
I know it.
Yeah.
All of us just fell, and our parents figured it out as they went along.
Yeah. You said something that I think we should definitely end with on understanding the fundamentals.
Yes.
And that's something that Ben used to tell me a lot when we were fighting, but it used to piss me off. Because I'm like, big picture? Really? Because
What?
right now, the details of this big picture are pissing me off.
And not coming together.
They're not. But it really is that big picture as fundamentals. Like, what is the big picture of this marriage? Because you probably had that conversation
Yes.
when you were getting married, that we want to be a power couple.
Yes.
We want our marriage to impact people. We want it to
People.
impact generations. We want our children to grow up in a loving home. All those are part of your fundamentals. Why did you do this in the beginning? And so just going back to that, if you have not lost sight of that, then all these other things, like your husband said, is noise. It's just that. And then treat it as such. Come together. Say, let's figure out this noise. Like, what did you hear again? Oh, that's what you heard? No, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
And then you ask your husband, what did you hear? You heard disrespect? Okay, maybe there was a bit of disrespect. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Let's keep moving, based on the big picture. And I think that's very key to not to lose sight of why you're together. Thank you, Doris.
Thank you,
for being
Rachel.
here.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any parting shots?
Parting shots. And look at the camera.
Look in the camera.
And I'll use a line we use in our business network. Keep the fun in the fundamentals.
I love it.
Don't lose the fun.
Yes.
Don't forget who this person was. Like if they used to make you laugh and now life is serving you a raw deal, find that laughter. Just say, but we used to sit with this dude and we would laugh like crazy. Like everything. You're probably at that stage where right now everything he says irritates you.
We've all been
We've
there.
all been there.
Yeah.
But keep the fun in the fundamentals. Go back, sit down, remember, and then talk about it. Say, hey, why have we lost this? Sometimes, of course, when the children come in, you're looking for school fees and it gets much. But it's about you. The kids come and go, and you'll still go back to just being the two of you. So what's that thing that held you together? Find it and walk your way back to it. Of course, and ask for God's help in the whole situation.
Yeah. Wow, what a way to end. Thank you so much, Doris, for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that we could do this again. I feel like this conversation was richer. But they'll never know because they didn't watch the other one. Do let us know in our comment section if you enjoyed this show and maybe what stood out for you. And once again, subscribe. Subscribe to The Good Wife. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Good Wife podcast. Until then, bye-bye.